What's happening, everybody? John and Chris here. Welcome to this episode of the Awaken Life podcast. We are so excited for this one.
Yeah, we are talking about a framework of how to wake up. There's 4 steps. And so what does waking up even mean?
Waking up is to track, to find, to create the best version of yourself, the best version of your life.
And so everyone says they want it, right? We all say, I want growth, I want expansion, I want to become a better version of myself, I want to be a more conscious person. But the reality is we all have these self-sabotaging behaviors where we say one thing, but we actually do the exact opposite of what we say. And this training is what we're going to show how that happens and like how to navigate around it so that you don't self-sabotage the very dreams that you say you want.
Chris is going to break down step by step where we get caught and how to overcome that. And so we gave this teaching to one of our private groups. It was via Facebook, so you're going to hear us say hashtag this and like that. Bear with us. It's an awesome training. Chris rocks the house. So let's jump on over to it. Thanks so much, guys.
Right. Hello. Welcome to this training. Today, we're going to be talking about the 4 steps to waking up. And so you're like, I am awake. Are you really? That's the question. So today, the 4 steps to waking up. I think it really starts with an understanding of like, what does it mean to wake up? Because obviously we all wake up every day. If we didn't wake up, we'd be dead, right? And then this isn't a conversation. We're talking about something else. Or not talking at all. But the idea of waking up means that we have like become asleep in relationship to what we believe like we can achieve in our lives, what we can do in our lives. And this is like the core of what yoga is all about. So if you're like, wait a second, I'm in Yak Yoga Lab and like, why are they talking about 4 steps to waking up? Because at the core of what yoga is, it is to wake up to your truth, to your potential, to the reality that you are much more than you think you are. And this training is going to help outline exactly what that is. So this waking up is a metaphor. Like we're sleeping of like this dream of us, of who we are and what our potential is. And it's born from our history, from all the things we've experienced that ends up being the cage that we lock ourselves in. We lock ourselves into it. And so I want to outline the process by which we go about waking up. Now, before I get into it and I talk about these 4 steps, which are hidden behind here, what is important to understand is that what I'm going to talk about and where we're going is like nature's design. It's nature's design, literally born from evolution. We have like become who we are because of survival, right? We have these brains that have evolved over millions of years to have one priority. Number 1 priority is survival, right? Survival, meaning it doesn't care if you're happy. Your brain doesn't care if you're at peace. It doesn't care if you achieve your dreams in life unless it has something to do with you surviving and then passing your genes on. Literally, there's 4 things that it cares about and how it reacts. It's like, I want to either fight or flee, right? Survival. I need to feed, I want to eat, or I want to procreate. And now those are the things, like that's this priority. And that's why, and to achieve survival, we have hardwired in our like the software of our brains, like how it operates, a negativity bias. What does that mean? It means that in our environment, our brains are programmed to focus on the negative, the things that could potentially cause us harm. So when you're thinking, telling stories to yourself, what you end up telling stories about are worst case scenarios. And then we tell these stories over a long enough period of time, stories based on experiences from the past. And when we get stuck in these negative feedback loops, this is what I mean by being asleep. We're stuck in these negative feedback loops of thinking and experiencing life. And we think this is just how it is. This is just who we are. And it's not. So the 4-step process to waking up is a way of saying, I get that evolution. I appreciate you like prioritizing survival and allowing us to be here to even have this conversation. But I now get to choose how I want to see my world and how I want to operate in it. This is what's so cool about this Yaks Yoga Lab is that we're able to deliver like information in here that normally prior to this, we were only being able to do inside of our teacher trainings. People pay thousands and thousands of dollars to be a part of it. So we're stoked because we get to like this, we're teachers at heart and we want to help people. So this is what we're doing. Cool. So where do we start? We start with unconscious unskillfulness. Now we borrowed this framework from, who was it? Was it Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Maslow, right? Maslow, yeah. We borrowed this from a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I forget exactly what it is, but Maslow. And we've changed the terminology. In fact, just today we were talking about it. We're going to change it again. So where we start is unconscious unskillfulness. This is where we changed it because Maslow used incompetence. And I'm like, that's a little harsh. He's throwing a little too much shade on us. Back up, Maslow. You don't know me. So unconscious unskillfulness, what this means is we are not aware that we are patterned and that we have a choice in what we're doing and the decisions that we make. Meaning, if you've ever said, this is just who I am, I'm just impatient, just who I am. That is unconscious unskillfulness because that impatience rears its ugly head in my relationships with my wife, with my kids, with my family, at work, when I'm driving, like it's there. And if I feel like this is just who I am, right, that means I am unconscious and I'm unskillful because this pattern of being impatient is not helping me live a better life, right? It's actually detracting and causing me suffering, right? Pain on some level, tension between relationships, this low level of anxiety. So unconscious unskillfulness simply means we're not aware that there's even a possibility of changing in our lives, right? And the patterns that we have are unskillful. Why are they unskillful? Because they're just being repeated from the past. All we're doing is just repeating experiences from the past. And I'll articulate this. I'm going to talk abstractly for a bit, and then I'll tell a story about it to kind of encapsulate what I really mean by all this. Okay, so then we start doing practices. Like if you're here, you're interested in yoga, you've done yoga to some point, that is an awareness practice. The way you really want to supercharge your process of waking up, start meditating. And by the way, we're going to teach the truth about what movement really does on our mats and meditation and how we manifest this beautiful life, this awakened life that we talk about in a 5-day immersion that we have coming up. It actually starts this coming Monday. So if you're interested in that, I'll let you know how to be a part of that. Okay, so we start an awareness practice, a movement practice, something that allows us to reflect. So we get to see, oh, wait, do I need to be that way? Do I have to be impatient here? Is there another way I could be with my wife when I'm waiting for her to get ready so we can go to dinner? And this is when you elevate to being conscious of your unskillfulness. Oh, and this is where it hurts. This is where it hurts. When you become aware that you have another way that's possible. When you become aware that you now see that how you're being isn't skillful. And why does it hurt? Because you know there's another way. You have this awareness practice. You're self-reflective enough so that you're like, man, there's that I don't have to be that way. There's a potential of me being another way. In fact, or maybe it's not, I don't have to be that way, but I don't enjoy being this way. I don't enjoy being impatient. Literally, the level of anxiety that I've lived most of my life in, just like impatiently waiting for other people to show up and to be a part of what I'm doing and to get there on time, it's like, it is more suffering than I've incurred in anything else in my life, just impatience. And this is now I'm aware of it. Now what happens after this? What happens, right? Well, what happens here is most people be like, oh my God, I wish I was unaware. You can't regress. You can't go back to being unconscious. Once your eyes have opened, you can never close them again. And what this level says is there is another way. But right now, I don't have the capacity to embody in the moment and actually act on that other way. And this is what how do you get from here to here? We have to have some type of awareness practice. Yoga, meditation, sometimes it's just being in nature. For me, most of the stuff that I do is an awareness practice, like Martial arts was an awareness practice. Surfing is an awareness practice where you're immersed in the moment and you get to be self-reflective, right? So we do practices here that allow us to see what we couldn't see before. And you cannot, and ignorance isn't bliss, by the way. Bliss is bliss, ignorance is ignorance. Ignorance causes suffering, bliss causes bliss. So that's a lie. Don't believe that myth. So, but then we have conscious skillfulness. And this is like, oh, I now see a pattern that is causing me angst, anxiety, anger, regret, something that is a negative affect that I don't want to experience. And now I start practicing the other way of being. And this is what's really important here. It's the law of little things. I wish in my heart that once I saw the pattern and I was like, oh man, I'm super impatient. I should probably work on being less patient. Poof, magically, I am bestowed patience and I walk around with effortless ease. And I have infinite patience for my brother who's a Libra, who is slower than anyone I've ever met in my life. No, that doesn't happen. What happens now as you see this, you now are given the opportunity to have conscious skillfulness. This is the reality. So let's go back to how the brain works. When you focus on something long enough, this is how we acquire skill. We have to focus consciously on it, and we focus consciously on it, and we focus consciously on it, and we focus consciously on it to a degree that it becomes embedded in our subconscious. Because the brain is all about efficiency. It doesn't need to have all of this information top of mind because it then can't process information in an effective way. So what happens is when you focus on something long enough and you acquire a skill, whether that skill is skillful or not, it then gets embedded in your subconscious as a program. And this is why we're walking around sleepwalking, is that we're just have all of these subconscious programs embedded from evolution, survival, embedded from our life experiences. Like for me, it was one of the biggest programs I had was I felt like in the puzzle piece that is me, I was missing the piece that was lovable because my dad left when I was 2 years old and I took responsibility for that. I took the blame for that, which made me hate him for years. That was a subconscious pattern that I played out over and over and over again. And for most of my life, I was just thinking, this is just who I am. I'm just an angry kid at my dad. My dad is an asshole, right? And that's just who I am. And then I started yoga, right? I actually started martial arts and it was just this pressure valve release where I could just punch something, right? I got all the aggression that I had in my life out. And then I started practicing yoga and I was like, oh, I'm now aware that this is killing me, literally on a physical level. I'm not happy. I'm in pain. It's killing me. And then I started being able to practice. When you see it now, what happens is, this goes back to the programming thing. You now, in your brain, you're saying, hey brain, this is significant to me. Please focus in my environment on the things that will help me gain more patience. And what your brain says is, good, I'll do that. What I'm going to focus your attention to are all the moments where you have the opportunity to be patient, meaning all of the things that trigger you to be impatient. This is how it works. This is the unfortunate truth, is when you get to this awareness that there's an unskillfulness, what you then program in the brain is, I now need to be more focused on those areas so that I can build the muscle. I can take the action to become more skillful. And this was a years long process for me in the forgiving of my dad. I would go back to man, I hate him. And then I would be like, no, forgive him. And then I was like, oh, I need a tactic. I need to talk to him. I need to understand him. So I would understand him and I would understand why he did what he did when he was younger and why he made the choices to leave his 6 kids. And then I understood him. And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to practice forgiveness again. And I'll practice forgiveness again. And when you do that enough, this is my point, the law of little things. When you practice, when you flex the muscle, for me, of forgiveness, when I flex the muscle of patience over and over and over again, where you end up is to be unconsciously skillful, meaning you then wire into your subconscious, and this is what we're going to change. It should be unconscious. This should really be subconscious because that's what's actually operating. You wire into your subconscious a skillful way of being. What does that mean? Now, when I think of my dad, what comes up is, I love him. Not I hate him. I've literally over years taken this, me waking up to the truth of who I am, waking up to this potential of how I want to relate to him. It went from I hate him to now when I think of him, I love him. I love him. And I say it wholeheartedly, right? Because I've gone through this process of just taking, and it's way deeper. Like for this training, I just want to keep it like 30,000 foot level because the way in which you go about practicing is very specific to the situation that you're dealing with, period. But the practice is the practice, meaning we have to flex the muscle enough here to get to this programming of the mind to then have an appropriate, skillful, heart-opening, mind-clearing, like not being stuck in the past response. And that's the way you wake up. You go from just being aware, right, or being totally unaware. This is where most people are just walking around sleepwalking. This is just who I am. I'm an angry person. Okay, let me know how that works for you. Then you have an awareness practice. Maybe you have a conversation with someone and conversing, communicating is an awareness practice if you're listening. And all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, there's a different way of being, right? That's why therapy is so powerful. They're just like embodying this different way of being and giving you these different insights about your history and different ways of looking at it. Then you practice that way of being over and over and over again until it becomes a pattern that is healthy in your life. But here's the deal. Here's the last thing I'll leave you with. This may be appropriate now, but is it appropriate in 5 years, in 1 year, in 10 years? These patterns may not be relevant to you. Even if they're healthy now, something may shift in your life where it's unhealthy later, right? Most of us have these patterns. Like for me, it was this self-defense mechanism when I was younger to take on the responsibility of my father because it gave me a semblance of control, even though it was hurting me. And that was skillful at that time when I was 3 years old and I couldn't make sense of what was happening. Why is my dad leaving my mom? Where's my dad? Why aren't they together anymore? Right? At the time, me like holding the mantle of like, it's my fault, however crazy it sounds, was a response that I needed to get me through that time period of my life. Fast forward to my early teens and all of a sudden this thing is killing me. And so the point is to practice, to have an awareness practice gives us insights into how we're being so that we can start dismantling them and rewiring better responses to life. And this is a continual process. It's a continual process because this is super important. And this is happening in all areas of our life every day, all day long. And what's so important about this is then it reframes all of the things that are happening that you perceive as negative. It reframes them so that you can have enough space to see, like, is it negative or is there a shift that needs to happen in the way I'm seeing this to then achieve this next level of awakening, right? Of waking up to this next level of growth and expansion in your life to actually literally to increase your capacity to handle more and live the life that you actually want to live. Because otherwise what we're doing is we're just repeating our former selves. That's all we're doing. We're just literally repeating ourselves over and over and over again, wondering why life is so hard when it's been so hard forever. And we're just repeating ourselves over and over and over again. Right? If you want to dive deeper into this type of information, we have a free 5-day immersion coming up. Right? It starts this coming Monday on June 15th at 12 o'clock. If you haven't registered, we're having everyone register so that if you miss a live session, you can get the email and that'll have the link to the replay where we're going to be holding all the replays. So if you're interested in attending the immersion, again, it's all free. There's no charge for it. Just comment down below, #immersion, and we'll send you over the link. And that link, if you have someone you're like, man, this is good stuff, they need to see it, you can share that link with anybody. We're like, this is wide open. It's free. So we just want to get as many people in there to help as many people as possible. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. That's all we got. 4 steps to waking up. Here it is. And man, it is the process that will change your life forever. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the immersion. Thanks so much. Peace.